And we begin with this. The heat is rising rapidly on Representative Ilhan Omar for her role in downplaying and obscuring the massive welfare fraud scandal, which is allegedly being perpetrated by many of her Somali constituents. And now it's coming straight from the top. Yeah, the way I see it, the gloves are most definitely off. President Trump is ratcheting up the pressure on Ms. Omar even further and now flat out accusing the Congresswoman of being one of many scammers from Somalia who are profiting from those fraud schemes. In a blistering social media post, the president rages that 90% of the Minnesota fraud is being committed by people who came to our country illegally from Somalia, which he calls the most corrupt country on the planet. Then goes on to call Congresswoman Omar a constantly complaining and ungrateful loser who contributes nothing to our society, before adding that lowlifes like her and her fellow Somalis can only ever be a liability to our country's greatness. Almost sounds like he's sort of kind of not fond of her. Taking it a step further, the president then suggests that the best course of action would be to send them all back to where they came from. And apparently, this time I think he really means it. The White House is now confirming that the entire administration is currently looking into how they can legally revoke the U.S. citizenship of any Somali Americans who are ultimately convicted of committing fraud. They also say that right now the federal government is executing a large number of search warrants and subpoenas directly related to the alleged crimes, that they soon expect to round up a lot of new offenders, and that moving forward, they're going to do their best to use denaturalization proceedings to kick them right out of the country. In the meantime, Omar says that both she and her fellow Somali immigrants consider themselves just as American as anyone else, that they're all protected by the U.S. Constitution, true that, and that in the end they know they're not going anywhere. Additionally, she continues to deny and deflect any and all charges against her, including allegations that she once actually married her own brother. And for the record, she calls those claims absurd and offensive, but everybody's talking about it. She's also pushing back against critics who allege that her astronomical leak in net worth may somehow be related to the enormous fraud taking place in her very own congressional district. Now, for the record, I've never alleged that. I may have alluded to it, but I never alleged it. And final thought, this is what we call the News Roundup Lowdown. Here's the bottom line, the way I see it anyway. Billions of hard-earned taxpayer dollars have literally vanished into thin air, Minnesota thin air. And while investigations still ongoing, dozens of scoundrels have already been convicted of fraud. And the way we see it, more convictions are on the way. Tons of that fraud happened in Ilhan Omar's 5th District, and rather than hunker down, address the issue, and effect a fix, she's redirecting, like a lawyer, deflecting, and coming off as delusional. And she even claims that President Donald J. Trump is creepy and obsessed with her. Now, look, 47 has a number of pressing issues to tend to every second of every day, trying to hold the planet together, and the last thing he's obsessed with is that woman. She's simply trying to take you off the trail, off of her failures, and blame her ineffective leadership and incompetence on somebody else. Essentially, the president is doing something today, right now, which the ungrateful Congresswoman refuses to do, and that's get to the bottom of what happened. Find out who's ultimately responsible and do everything in his power to put a stop to it. First in Minnesota, and then all over the country. Hey, simply put, the gravy train's about to run out of steam, and every taxpayer across the nation appreciates what the Trump administration is doing to stop crooks from raiding the government till. That's your money, and my money as well. And by the way, if you support the administration in their efforts to hold people accountable, leave a comment for us, and we'd like to know what you're thinking. I know what I'm thinking, and I think we're probably on the same page.